Hey everyone, it's Mallo, your host of IDENTECO After Dark and the creative director here for IDENTECO. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that this episode is brought to you in part by Gamers Heaven and their newest location just north of Seattle, Washington. There, in a family-friendly and welcoming environment, you can play tabletop or video games, read manga, or just relax with friends and sample some amazing drinks from their boba tea bar. If you want to learn more, log on to gamersheavenseattle.com to see hours and location. Now let's get on with the show. Hello, Fringers. The following podcast may not be suitable for all ages. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of IDENTECO After Dark, our nerdy little live podcast where we talk about video games, TV, music, movies, and more. My name is Mallo. I am your host tonight. I'm joined by my co-conspirator, Alex the Humanoid. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, everybody? It's Star Wars Day.
It's another Star Wars night. Joining us on the panel for this episode, it's just out of the Bacta tank and he's not fully thawed. It's Joe.
I think Carbonite's a better analogy for what I felt like. If you put me in a Bacta tank like Wednesday or Thursday last week, I might have just dissolved into the fluid and gone out with the drain water.
Also, yep. Also joining us on the panel tonight, it's returning fan favorite and Maxie from the Chaos Incorporated crew. It's Michael.
I appreciate the ego boost I got from you calling me a fan favorite. I gotta say, like, that makes me just feel all warm and fuzzy. So thank you.
Well, we got to build you up before we get to the salt.
Yeah, no, because I'm probably gonna get torn down tonight. My understanding is that Alex is not going to be taking any salt tonight. He's on a low salt diet, and I feel like we're going to break that tonight. I feel like his cardiologist is going to be real mad at us.
I am particularly salty, and I got into this discussion with Phil earlier today, and y'all will understand some of my salt. I think Mallow will be the one who sympathizes with my salt the most.
Fair.
Well, we've already established you're wrong, so...
Wow. All right, before we get to the name tossing... I have to go through the beginning of the show.
That's true.
Would you guys just let Mallow get through his bit? Come on.
Just got to get through the bit. That's all. I want to let you know that this show is partially brought to you in part by Hero Forge. There's an affiliate link down below here on the Twitch streams. And if you're watching this on YouTube later and in the podcast, if you are building minis for your next D&D or IDENTECO wink game, you can join and create a custom mini on Hero Forge's site. Alex's camera continues to not want to focus on the mini itself, but they're beautiful. They also come in full color now. And they also are creating a lot more things that are for modern and sci-fi, as well as games like Ourselves, Starfinder, Cyberpunk Red, many of the other ones out there come to fruition. So go there. If you're not just doing D&D, you can kind of create them all and go from there. So go check it out. Yeah. Use our affiliate link. It's down below, and it's also going to be in the chat here in a little bit as well. PlayIdentico.com. If you are not familiar with the game, you can go there and you can find all sorts of cool merch, as well as the core rule book, the supplements that we have there as well. And just today, literally right before we went live, I put up a new sticker. I had teased it. We got more of the holographics. Neon Gothic.
Ooh.
Go check it out.
Two C's, so you know it's good.
It's double thick.
I love, like, the triple entendre there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say I write for a living. I'm just saying.
Well, those guys are nerds.
Yes. So go check it out. We have a limited number of quantities there, so playidentico.com/merch. Go check it out. Also, down below, you'll see a link over to Gamers Heaven and the new Seattle location. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm sorry, because I'm going to go and actually have a bumper at the beginning of the podcast that advertises this too. So Anyways, go support our friends over there, including the person in this podcast that, just happens to help run the joint. So
I don't know if that's an announcer's note as much as it is a note to future Mallo. Remember to put the bumper on at the beginning of this episode.
I have a template right now that has the 2 sponsor bumpers already in it, and your warning already baked into it. So all I got to do is drop in this part of it and go.
And if you want to play Identico with Mallo and I, we're there every Thursday running a living campaign that ties into Chaos Inc. So what's happening in that campaign will affect what's going on in Chaos Inc. And what's happening in Chaos Inc. will affect what's going on in that campaign. It's super duper fun.
Yes.
We're there every Thursday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Come have some fun, roll some dice with me. We had 2 tables worth of players last week. I think we had like 14 or 15 players show up. So it was good times had by all. So come check us out Thursdays again, 6 p.m.
There's always room for more at the table.
Yeah, we got you covered. So come learn. If you're brand new to Identico or even just tabletops in general, we'll teach you everything you need to know on the fly. It's all okay. It's very easy to jump in. I had one other announcement that I wanted to kind of put out there for it, and it's bloody well escaped me.
Mid-roll, it's fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll think about it maybe by the end of it. The other thing that I did want to say, though, after I went through that, is thank you to everybody who has gone to our YouTube channel and subscribed. We are on the march for 100 subscribers over there. Then we get the fancy little custom URL. We're also on the quick march to monetization over there. Yeah, that's happening quickly. So y'all are watching the shows over there.
I understand that YouTube pays just slightly better than Spotify.
Slightly.
You know what? At this point, we're trying to get there.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Everything that y'all have done literally is keeping the show going. So we see some resubs and we see some raids over in the chat. Thank you. Because all of that goes to, we actually just reinvest it right into the show so we can keep it going. Yep. But I want to just thank from our Twitch and YouTube subscribers, Your Majesty Prince, Lancer Boy, Zane Reaver, and the little AO. So thank you all for your subs. If you have subscribed via podcast, give us a shout on our socials and let us know so we can also shout your name out here on the show, because every time you do that, that goes to help spread the word, and we get past all the machine and corporate algorithms that keeps us down. Damn the man! And we're immediately demonetized for that, but you get what I'm saying.
And then come hang out in our Discord server where we talk about everything from video games to posting silly memes and all kinds of stuff. So if you're not in the Discord server yet, you should definitely check out the Identico Discord. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Everybody's really, really nice over there.
Come talk Lost Ark, because I'm having to live through you all when it comes to Lost Ark, because I haven't had a chance to play it yet. But that seems to be the flavor of the month when it comes to MMOs. But it does look beautiful in all seriousness. It looks gorgeous. So
and we have a regular crew on every Friday night. You're happy to jump in whenever you want.
Oh, and you can come see me whine and complain while we play Pummel Party or golf.
Let's rephrase this. You can come watch Mallo be bad at video games.
I am fine at video games.
You know, between this show, where we're definitely going to argue about Star Wars, and between me trolling Mallo on whatever game we're playing on Friday nights, I kind of expect Mallo to punch me in the junk every time I see him, and I'm just waiting for the punch Joe at the store and get 10% off your Boba discount.
Look,
we might be able to make that happen.
So here's the thing. If you go and subscribe at the YouTube channel and you bring me proof that you subscribed at the YouTube channel and you sit down at my table on Thursdays, I will give you 5 free 100 XP. 500 free XP. There we go. I word good. I will give you 500 free XP at the table if you show me that you were a new subscriber to that. So I'm just saying, I'm not above incentivizing people to help us out. We got to do it somehow. Anyone here remember Groove Shark? Yes, I do. Hated that program.
I'll one up this. If any of y'all catch Joe at the store and walk up to him and tell him Ahsoka is a superior Jedi, to his face, I will give you 5% off of your purchase, whatever you want in the store.
I accept this challenge.
Because I would really love to see somebody do that to Joe. His boba's pretty often.
You just say your wife does it for free. So
yeah. That's true. All right.
So here is your fair warning for everybody in the chat. This is a spoiler cast. We are going to talk all about the entire season of Book of Boba Fett / Mandalorian season 3 episodes 1, 2, and 3. Because that's what I thought about the season so far.
Can I make a comment about the spoilers fact right there really fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
There are no spoilers in this episode. If you watched every episode but the last one, and then watched the last one, you should have seen everything that happened.
Regarding Boba Fett, yes, but there's some other things that came up.
We haven't even formally started talking about it, and he's throwing shade, and y'all call me the salty one?
No, I want to just ask, and this is unrelated to my brief disappearance.
You guys keep going.
Does anyone know if Chinese mustard goes bad?
I have no idea. I mean, I know mustard's got a long shelf life.
I would say my understanding is the mustard pretty much never goes bad.
Okay,
just currently saying yes, Michael. So
okay. I'm just
does go bad.
Again, just like unrelated to any reason that I might be asking, just out of pure curiosity. Just curious. That's all, really.
I
used
for a friend.
There was a packet of mustard that I may have used this afternoon that may now be impacting my life. Colon life.
Hey, Michael, you're supposed to open the packet of mustard before you use it.
Oh, you don't ingest the whole packet.
Yeah. I know instructions are unclear, but
yeah. I figured just masticating it would release all of that mustardy goodness. I must be wrong. Anyway,
it's not like the the little things you put in the dishwasher. That little packets that explode and all that. It doesn't work like that.
Well,
it's not like a Tide Pod?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't look at it as a negative. Look at it. You just gave us the opportunity to revive this channel's old tradition of having a PSA every episode. PSA, Chinese mustard apparently goes bad.
And there you go.
Exactly. And don't eat the packet whole. Don't do that. So enough about...
I came back about halfway through it. I thought you were talking about yellow mustard. All mustard has a shelf life.
Enough of my gastrointestinal distress. Let's get to the episode.
Okay. Welcome, new viewers.
Nobody is listening to Identico After Dark for tips on what not to eat.
Are you
on your ramen noodles in the afternoon?
I think you're implying that the show was so bad it gave you a gastrointestinal distress.
Oh, no, not at all.
Right.
I was just so nervous to be on the show with you guys again because, again, there's just maybe this is just nervousness that's impacting me here. You guys just put me on my toes.
There's a joke here about how the Book of Boba Fett was. I'm just saying. There's a segue here. Speaking of...
How are we doing this, Mallo? Are we doing... whole season, or do you want to just talk about the last episode? What do we do?
Oh no, it's a whole season. This is our recap now. This is a whole season recap because all right, I'm going to set this up for a bit here because of a certain way that the show was run this season. Mm-hmm. You can't look at things. You can do recaps episode to episode, but you really have to take this entire season. Now that we did a Boba Fett episode. This is Boba Fett episode number 2. You kind of have to look at the season in its totality to see where all the plot lines and everything that worked out and yada, yada, yada went to. Because interesting choice of how to bring all of this together. That's what I'll say to get us started. Who would like to go first?
What? I'm kind of curious before we totally dive into this. Whoever's going to be commenting on this, what grade letter would you give this show? I'm going to call it a C+.
Okay. Alex, what would you give it?
I'm going strong B+, weak A-.
Okay. Michael?
I am solidly in the B camp. B+, B-.
I am also solidly in the like high C B camp, I think, which is to say, as still passing grade and it's still good because honestly, having Star Wars. So I'm gonna start this now because there's a lot of salt on the internet. Having any Star Wars, okay, is better than having no Star Wars. Let's go ahead and just put that rule out there. We got to see people do the pew-pews. We got to see some lightsabers. We got to tell a Western story. So having any bit of Star Wars is better than having no Star Wars. With that said, Boba kind of was missing about halfway through the series.
Boba did almost nothing, let's be honest.
At least in the last episode. At least in the last episode, surprise entrant number like 50 in this. This series was a vehicle to bring in fan favorites from all other series, is what I'm convinced about. Fan favorite number 75 was Cad Bane. And at least they had Cad Bane and Boba calling each other old men in the last episode, because that had been a glaring thing that was going on throughout the whole series.
I should have saved it. But the other day on Reddit, I saw an image that said that it was one of the things that you know, edited the like, I don't know, the logo of the show, I guess, or whatever you call it. It was just called a Book of I Am Boba Fett. Like, because that's pretty much all he did this season is walk around like, I am Boba Fett. And soak in a bath of man.
Well, honestly, our first episode was called Furious Head Nodding because for the first 2 or 3 episodes, that's all Boba Fett was doing, was head nodding to the Tuskens because they didn't talk.
So, because I'm trying to remember, I'm gonna have to pull up the dang episode guide. So let's go back.
Way back.
I really loved
back in time.
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Loved the Tusken stuff. Thought it was really well done. Thought him training with the Tuskens and doing all that added a lot of depth to the character. I felt that it was like, I saw a lot of whinging about it, and I was like, okay, this all makes sense to me. Like, I see what I can see what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think I see where they messed up, which is what puts it in the like B+ A- category for me. And I'll come back to that later, but I didn't think it was Furious Head Nodding. I thought it was pretty good about being like, hey, we got a lot of ground to cover between end of Return of the Jedi, and we know Mandalorian started, 5 years after Return of the Jedi? And so you've got to cover
roughly.
You've got to cover a 5-year gap and be like, why has no one freaking seen or heard of Boba Fett in 5 years until he shows up on Tatooine during Mandalorian Season 2?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, though. You didn't have to cover any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the way they introduced Boba, and I'll just argue this point, the way they introduced Boba in Mando, the way they kind of brought him on, they could have done an episode's recap at best of getting you like the highlights of where Boba's been, and they could have like smoothly transitioned that into the current story without doing it the way that they did. They would have missed a couple of really cool things that they did. The Tusken stuff, I really enjoyed the Tusken stuff. What I didn't like is how poorly the Tusken stuff was bridged to the current day stuff.
See, and this is...
We talked about that before with the, it was directorial choices.
Initially, I agreed with you. Now I disagree. I think they screwed up in that I think there's too much subtext to it, right? But I think it's directly related to how Boba Fett goes from I'm a jerk bounty hunter to I need to protect people and I'm going to rule with respect. Because that, however many year period, he's with the Tuskens. And if you shorten that, I don't feel it has the weight as to why that would change his personality and who he was so dramatically.
But I
liked about it.
I'd argue, though, Alex, that nothing they showed in the time with the Tuskens gave you the impression that there was 5 years worth of time.
And again,
I don't feel
you wanted to see winter on Tatooine. You wanted to see a Tuscan Christmas tree.
And literally, I think that's the problem that they had. There's too much they left to subtext, and you've got to read a little more into it than I think that they should have. Writing a directorial decision to not show you that passage of time a little more clearly, because you're right. You could look at that whole sequence and be like, that was a month and a half.
I mean, you really could if you were thinking in that way about it. There was no real way to show, or they didn't really show the passage of time other than, the changes in Boba, really, and his relationship to the Tuscans. One could assume that does take time to earn the trust of these people, right. But at the end of the day, there was nothing really showing that time passage. Even their subtle usage of like him healing to show passing of time, it was too subtle.
I agree, and that's what knocked it down. It was too subtle.
Can I offer a dissenting opinion?
Ooh. You sure can.
Yeah.
Please, Joe.
My problem with the show is I very much got the impression the entire time that this show was extraordinarily schizophrenic in how it wanted to display the story. This came across to me. I don't necessarily hate what they did with the show, but this whole entire season has just kind of revolved around in my head that they didn't know what they were doing with the story from start to finish, because it jumps all over the place. It's thematically just random as hell. Almost a third of the episodes that were available had nothing to do with Boba Fett to begin with. This really felt like a very unpolished, unfinished story that they were like, shit, how do we stretch this into 7 episodes? And we ended up with the kind of schizophrenic story we have now. The only unifying thing that I saw in the entire season was that they should have named this the Book of Character Arcs. Because it falls victim to what George Lucasisms, where he wants to make every single character some kind of hero. So Star Wars has a fetish for character arcs that go from someone being bad to someone being good. I spent some time in the shower this afternoon trying to think of this. All of the characters that have existed beyond one season or one movie, only 4 characters in the entire Star Wars saga have not had a good or a bad to good arc. Only 4.
I'd be curious to hear what your 4 is. The only one I'm going to dissent with you on, because I actually saw somebody before this final episode came out, somebody was like, I bet you that they're going to do that bad to good thingy and that Cad Bane's going to turn on the Pike Syndicate, right? At the very last, like Boba's either paying him or he's going to decide, screw it, I'm going to go with Boba. And I'm glad they didn't do that, because Cad Bane didn't need to turn into a good guy to come into the final, like to round him out for the final episode. I think the way that they ended Cad Bane's story here, the way that was structured, flies in the face of what you're saying there.
Nah. Right. Cad Bane, I'm amending my list of 5 people because I forgot Cad Bane exists, because he should have stopped existing at the end of Clone Wars. But
I kind of liked how he came into this one, though. I'm gonna give you a lie, although I haven't seen Clone Wars, but still.
Well, I saw him, I've seen him in Clone Wars. I saw him in here, and I was like, okay, as soon as he walked on the screen, I'm like, I'm already tired of Space Doc Holliday. Like, I don't, we don't need any more of him.
He's Space Johnny Ringo. So I see where all y'all are coming from. And it hit me as I was driving around this afternoon. I presume we're going to get into some detail stuff later. I think Jon Favreau is MCUing this. And there's a reason.
Oh, clearly.
I think that, like, a lot of the whinging I saw about the show early on, I was like, you got to wait until you get to the end of the season to really look at how this is a full arc. Now I'm saying, okay, he's not doing just this season. This entire series, and this is where I will criticize their production schedule, and I'll criticize how they're releasing these. This entire season was set up. That's all it was. Mm-hmm. It was, we need to backstory Boba, explain how he got to where he is, set up some stuff, because what's really important right? Like,
is Mando season 3?
Avengers, right? Right. This is Avengers. It's not Infinity War. We're not.
I want to be on board with that.
This arc. And I'm telling you, I'm willing to put money down that that's exactly what they're doing, because I think the whole point of why did we bring Mando back into this? What was the point of that?
Is to save production time on season 3.
No,
because that's story bits. They could start season. They can start season 3 with Mando and Grogu already together because they already covered it, and they can start back down the path to.
And I think Boba's going to be a big part of Mando season 3, and I think that he's going to be part of the whole Mandalorian redemption arc, and he's going to be riding a freaking mythosaur on Mandalore.
I mean,
he's going to be dead.
All of those things.
No.
All of those things may be the case, but it's funny that you mentioned, you know, that this was all kind of this was like world building, right? They're doing the backup. The problem with that is that because they did so poorly with Boba Fett and his crew, like the consequences and the stakes for everybody around Boba Fett were non-existent. Because at no point, the only person that they give you a reason to care about that's surrounding Boba Fett is Fennec Shand. And the only reason you care about Fennec is because you know her from Mando. You know her from that part of the adventure. Like the crew that Boba put together to protect Mos Espa is basically a bunch of, you know, it is a bunch of cameos and nameless people. Because I'll tell you what, they did in this episode for the finale was the first time I remember Boba actually saying the names of anybody in that mod crew.
So the mod crew, I will say that's another thing that took me down. So it both increased my score and decreased my score because I saw what Jon Favreau and Robert Rodriguez were doing, and I got the joke. But I was like, dude, nobody else gets the joke. Like, I've seen so much commentary about that mod crew, and I was like,
because it was stupid.
No one gets the joke. Like, there is.
What's the joke?
So there was a whole thing, and this goes back to when like Robert Rodriguez was making Mariachi and Desperado. Go back and watch SLC Punk and look at the mods there. This was a whole like stylistic thing that happened in the early 90s with mods. And the minute I saw the way they were dressed, I was like, and then when they called them the mod crew, I was like,
well, the mod movement was originally from the 60s in the UK.
Right, but, and then it was big in the 90s with stuff with that. And I was just like, oh my God. You made these guys in here, and it's funny to me, but it's not going to be funny to anybody else.
It was stupid and unnecessary, and all it did was detract from the show. And this is coming from... I almost reinstalled Grand Theft Auto 5 just so I can go online and take a screenshot of my character with the Vespa with the, 1,000 mirrors on the side of it, like the one chick had in it. And don't get me wrong, I somewhat enjoyed some of the actors. I was really into hot 90s hair chick girl that was in the mod squad. But the whole mod squad was just is what I was complaining about the last time we watched this show, where they do something because they're like, oh, this will be cool. Like, there's no real reason for it other than it's cool, including having the fucking mod squad drive through a fruit stand in their first episode.
No, fruit stand and a picture.
I understand they were being a little tongue-in-cheek about it, and they were trying to make a little ha-ha funny moment, but it was so ridiculously out of place for the show that it should not have been a greenlit to happen.
It takes the Western trope. I mean, it took it way out there, right?
It was silly, and it was fun. I liked having Black Chrysanthemum in there.
Oh, I loved all the cameos too. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I think that, especially if you look at the comic books and where he goes up and ends up with Afra, that's a nice throw in there.
They didn't. If you're part of the Legends and the canon universe and you know who some of these characters are, that gives you some more buy-in, right? You can be a little more concerned that Black Chrysanthemum looks literally like in this episode he's walking back to them through the fight, and it literally looks like his ankle is at a 90 degree.
Yeah, dude.
Like
that was
literally, but if you aren't someone who knows that existing lore, Chrysanthemum is a throwaway character.
Yeah, you're just looking at me like, damn, that Wookiee is tough as freaking nails. Right?
He did come off as tough. I appreciated that.
Not the impression I got.
That guy's a beast.
But I think that's the problem for me is I wanted this to be like and again, this is all personal. I was hoping that this show would be much more about just literally focusing on Boba's like crime syndicate story. And we've talked about this before, so that's no surprise coming from me. But then also like, I wanted that same kind of feeling of world building that I had to say Mandalorian gave us. Like, you got time with some of these side characters that you were able to actually develop. Like, I want to see them make it through this okay. Not just because they have a name that I know, but because they are interesting characters. And I feel like that was missing from this a lot.
And see, to me, that was the Tuskens, and that was Boba in my head. Because again, I was like, I picked up on, and the way that I watched, the way that I absorbed the show, right? Because the first episode where he was like, we will rule from respect, and we're not doing fear, and we're not doing that, I was like, that's weird. And then as I was like, oh, this is the Tuskens are the first family that Boba has had since his father was killed by Mace Windu, right? And Boba's whole life, and again, I'm not throw Legends out the wall because I mean, yeah, I liked Legends too, but it's not canon anymore. But if you look at just what's out there and the stuff that Boba did in Clone Wars and the stuff that
in Clone Wars, Boba was basically raised by the bounty hunter cadre.
Right, and I think
Aurra Sing and Bosk, and they were all kind of his found family then.
Yeah,
and Cad.
And again, that's why I like the way they ended it with Cad Bane. That was the perfect person to do this. But again, to me, it was Boba spent time with the Tuskens, and he, for the first time in his life since his father, found a real family.
Like a real boy.
That weren't, vicious bounty hunters that only cared about money.
I to disagree. Like 100%. Like, I get what you're saying. But it's
like disagree in that they didn't do a good job of showing that, or that's not what they were intending.
That they did a terrible job with the entire story. This is part of the reason why I think this should be called Book of Boba Fett, the character arc. Because like one of my chief problems with this show is I didn't like that they brought in a bunch of characters like Chris Sanson. I didn't want that. But whatever, it's okay. My problem is they, like I said at the beginning, they took George Lucas's fetish for making bad people into good people and took that knob, dialed it up to 11, and broke it off.
Who though?
Because you start out with let's go through the cast of characters real quick. You have a giant angry Wookiee who is known for just like straight up murking people and just being a horrible person in lore, just in general.
Okay, that's one.
He becomes a soft cuddly teddy bear that has very poorly shot the crutches at the end of the very final episode. You have Boba Fett, who watched his dad get killed by Jedi on Geonosis and went through a horrible time and basically became the ruthless and cold-blooded killer because of that, who then loses his family in similar circumstances, his found family, and then is just like, oh wait, I'm going to be all happy and hugs and love because of that. It's out of character for him. You have Fennec Shand, who is a hard-bitten, ruthless Imperial assassin who gets shot and left for dead in the desert, and just comes back as like,
right,
sunshine and flowers. Let's do this awesome thing and help each other out and make community.
I would actually argue the Fennec Shand piece.
She is not the hard-bitten assassin that she was at the start. When she showed up in Mandalorian.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. She was not Fennec Shand was not the same character we saw in Mando get shot. But I would also say that through the course of this show, Fennec managed to stay closest to her core, which was that Fennec is going to do what needs to get done. That's why Boba sends her to do all the dirty work.
It's also why she was the one the whole time who was like, you should be murking people. You should be messing people up.
She was willing to let Boba. She was willing to let Boba like make the mistakes that he was going to make. because
I think that's in character for her though.
I think Fennec realized. Well, I think Fennec owed Boba her life, so of course there is that. I've never owed my life to a person, but I'd be willing to bet I'm going to give them some leeway on decision making if it turns out that I got shot and left for dead and they brought me back.
I still don't think that'd be enough to make someone into a cuddly teddy bear.
Well, you say cuddly teddy bear. I don't see that from Fennec.
She picked up that Ithorian by his neck.
Okay, right? So she did what? She dove back into her life once, and then you're like, oh man, she's definitely hardcore the whole time.
Anytime Boba was like, yeah, go ahead. She was like, hang on. Let me murder these people. Boba had to specifically tell her when they got attacked by the S.H.I.E.L.D. guys early in the season, he was like, look, we need one of them alive. And she killed all but one of them to make sure that they had one guy left to interrogate, but the other dude, she was like, yeah, I'm going to murk you first. Right? Like,
I don't think murking an entire group is really being that bad of a thing in Star Wars, because it happens fucking all the time. Everybody does it. Like, that's just kind of like you go to the grocery store and end up murking some fucking sweet game.
Innocent people to not be a cuddly teddy bear, right? That's where you're at. I'm with Michael on this one. I don't think she turned into a cuddly teddy bear. I think that she killed a lot of fools.
There was a character change. I will 100% give you there was a change in her character's demeanor, but I feel like given the experience that she had with Boba and their relationship, I feel like that was her giving Boba, you know what? I'm gonna let you make this call because this is your city. I'm your second, and I'm telling you what I think is right to do, because she constantly was like, I think you're making a mistake. I think you're doing this wrong. Mm-hmm. But like, so I will just argue that. I will argue that point. Joe continues.
The cherry on my character arc cake is they even managed to do it to a Rancor. They take a vicious evil creature, which evil in depending, because they did mention the Dathomiri witches whenever they brought them in.
Yep.
So a character that was a bad guy. Granted, it's not the same Rancor, but it was a bad guy in Return of the Jedi. It was very typecast as this is a vicious monster. And they bring him in, and they immediately turn him into a cuddly pet that just drools at Boba Fett's sight. And then they cap off the season with Baby Yoda taking a nap in his jowls. Like they did it to a Rancor.
First off, Baby Yoda used the Force, so let's throw that one to the side. And the other thing is, it's always been established that Rancors have trainers and things like that. They're not like, the reason it was the bad guy was because Jabba and the trainer had it controlled and he would kill people with it. But Rancors, just as that's like being like, you know what's evil? A great white shark. No, it's not evil.
I just had this conversation with the wife the other day. Sharks are evils because sharks have existed longer than trees, have survived all 5 mass extinctions, and are still around.
All right.
I'm the one that's crazy because I'm scared of going in the ocean.
I want to hear from Mallo now. I want to hear from Mallo in the chat because we've been arguing around in a kind of a circle.
I'm having fun just chatting with chat right now. We're just having a whole side conversation. Just putting it out there.
I'm just saying, like, I think that where we are on this is just an area where it's like, I think it's I understand what Joe and Michael are saying. I think Michael's somewhere between me and Joe.
That's a scary place to be.
No, I mean it's cozy, it's warm.
Can we talk? I want to add a positive note. So the thing that made me like happy, and the thing that I wish they would have done like twice more, though, and I will criticize them for not doing it till the last episode. Okay, when Mando and Boba came out of the top of the fucking sanctuary, both on jetpacks, and they were flying around like icing those Pike Syndicate guys while flying, I was happy. I was like, yes, backpacks, got jets.
I did like the final. The gunfight was pretty good. I with some caveats, but we can talk about that later. But the type of the action was good. I like that.
I enjoyed watching Boba Fett ride a Rancor. Again, you can argue about the storiness of it, but admit it, that was just fun.
Riding the Rancor is not the problem. Like, I was fine with I was even fine with the Rancor showing up. I was really hoping they weren't going to do a King Kong on the skyscraper thing at the very end, which they ended up not doing it. Like you,
they did.
I was worried that they were going to do that.
They totally did King Kong on the skyscraper.
No, 100%. I'm talking about him getting killed and falling off.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna say because the whole leaning off with the one arm.
Yeah,
that was definitely King Kong.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fighting in the city. It was pretty good for the most part. We'll come back. I'm sure we can come back to it later. I kind of felt like the production value on this whole show was kind of shit and half finished, especially compared.
Well, Joe, we've talked about this, I think, but on the last episode, I don't know that you were on, but we mentioned it then too. Like, literally, at the first 4 episodes, I felt like the Mos Espa was literally, it felt like a studio backlot. Like, it just did not feel like the other environments that they had spent time in the other show. However, then they got to episode 5, and suddenly it's as if they had a production budget, and they decided they wanted to spend a shitload of money on effects and direction, and boom,
they spent it all on the deepfake
because it wasn't made for Boba Fett.
Both of the Mando episodes, both of those episodes, far outclassed the other episodes in the series. Like as far as production value and the actual the budget. I mean, I would assume budget because it certainly looks like they spent more money on making everything look the way it was supposed to look. I will say when Mando's walking around in the Halo ring, in the Halo ring world, because when he's walking around, it looked absolutely gorgeous.
It was the Mandalorian episode. They took it out of that budget. They probably just transplanted that episode 1 of season 3.
No, again,
it's not how production budgets work, but okay.
Sure it is.
This is why I think this is all set up for the Infinity War of this, which is going to be further down the line.
It's a setup for the Infinity War, which was literally episode 9 of the movies.
Which I don't think... So, we can talk about that on a different Star Wars cast. I'm starting to buy more into they may do something funky that I didn't think Disney would do, and I think they're getting some distance, and they may end up doing it.
And I think I would also like to just throw out there that, like, we talked about kind of the dissonance between the Boba Fett episodes and the Mando episodes, or the Mandalorian focused episodes.
Yeah.
If I was watching this without ever having seen Mando, I would assume that those 2 episodes were a backdoor pilot for a show about the Mandalorian.
Yes.
Like 100%, and that's what I feel like. I feel like they used that time in this show, in this series, right? This first season of Boba Fett. They used that time to bridge things that they didn't want to have to deal with when they were doing season 3, because Mando gets more backstory in 2 episodes for his for what's going on with him and Grogu and his new ship. He gets all of that, and every other character in the Boba Fett arc of things gets almost no time.
You can argue it's a mistake, but I think it's going to play into what
I don't think it's a mistake. I don't think it's a mistake because I enjoyed them. Like those episodes, I was like, yeah, Grogu, new ship.
I feel like this is
going to have a lot to do with Boba Fett later, and without those 2 episodes, putting them into the chronological sequence, which is where they belong chronologically, I think it wouldn't make sense later. I think I see where they're going because I know Filoni likes stuff from the old canon. And I think the thing that they're going to bring back from the old canon, as they've brought back some things, is I think they are going to make Boba the Mandalore at some point. I don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be Boba Fett season 2 or Mandalorian season 4 or when they're going to do it. But I'm like 60% of the way that Boba will be the Mandalore.
I feel like this season was clutched together out of, COVID was happening right in the middle of them doing all their production work for this, and I feel like it suffered as a result. I kind of feel like this is similar to what happened with Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Or what, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah. Where they had a plot that they had to severely cut down for whatever reason, and this is what we ended up with. I have to say, though, if this stretch of shows, minus the Mandalorian episodes, had come out about 10 years ago, it would have gone straight to VHS. It felt
not straight to DVD.
very low budget. It felt very incomplete. It felt like they had chopped their story up to a point where they had to just scramble to try to make any kind of sense.
Well, I want you to go back and watch some 90s like sci-fi movies or even mid-aught sci-fi movies.
I still have a copy of Robot Dogs.
Low budget. We have gotten so spoiled.
No.
No.
I'm sorry. You cannot tell me that this was not low budget when they pulled out fucking 1997 source engine generic gunshot sound for the air quote cycler that she was shooting from the roof.
Everybody hear what's the name of that scream? The
Wilhelm scream.
Wilhelm scream.
I was like,
if you go back, there's a segment in the Rancor where he screams at the camera for like 10 seconds. You can clearly hear where they copied and pasted parts of the audio loop and just stuck it in there. You can hear it.
Okay.
That shit should not have gone through production. And half of the blaster effects look like it came straight out of some kind of like fucking Veggie Tale Star Wars.
I like how Jake gave this like a C+, and he's just rapping it like it's an F. He's like, this is worse than Solo.
Because no, Solo was far better production-wise than this. Because this came on the back of the Mandalorian, which we all have agreed was fantastic looking. They took they set a high bar with Mandalorian, and then we're just like, well, here's the leftover we left on the cutting room floor. Let's get our C team on this one.
Let me ask this then. So let's talk about those Mandalorian episodes a little bit. The way they handled the choice for Grogu, did y'all like that? The stuff with Ahsoka and how Luke was like, here's your choice.
I knew it was coming.
Be a Mandalorian or be a Jedi. But do you like how they handled it?
I'm fine with it because I knew it was coming, because Grogu had absolutely no mention at all in the Force flashback or the flashback with Kylo Ren. Like, as soon as they started talking about him going to the Jedi Academy, I was like, oh, he's not finishing.
What?
He's either gonna die or quit.
My favorite.
Do you like Mando Grogu?
My favorite meme about this entire thing was when Ben Solo reaches out to Grogu and Grogu's like, "You're all right, dude," and Ben's like, "I will spare your life." I love that meme. Yeah. It's my favorite.
Do you like Mandalorian Grogu better than Jedi Grogu?
I think when it comes down to it, I think he's going to end up with a lightsaber anyways. Frankly, I think he's going to get one. Yeah. I think he's going to end up with Yoda's lightsaber. I halfway expected him to come riding on the Rancor with a lightsaber in his hand.
Honestly, I think that's kind of why they brought. I thought that was why they brought Ahsoka in, because they're like saying, "See, there are other Force users who are very distinctly not Jedi," because she says multiple times that she is not a Jedi.
So here's I saw somebody comment on this in one of the other Discords I'm on, and I was on board with it. One of the people that was throwing a lot of salt was throwing salt about how Luke was basically, forcing. In some way or form, forcing the same choice that he got from Yoda, which was, you can leave, but your training's that you're done. Like, you can go help your friends, or you can make your choice here. Yoda essentially told Luke, well, if you leave, that's it. But as we all know, that wasn't it.
It was kind of in on his training, yeah.
Well, yeah. But I mean, Luke continued to use the Force on his own, continued to train on his own, became a Jedi in his own right. So I feel like, again, we see it through that entire scene with Luke, where Luke is basically trying to train Grogu as much as he was trained by Yoda in a similar way.
So the best comment I saw that I think I agree with the most is the Luke that we're seeing here is the Luke that still buys the doctrinal garbage of the Jedi. This is by Last Jedi, he's figured out that the Jedi were full of crap. But at this stage in Luke's life, he still thinks that the Jedi were right about shit. Mm-hmm. And so he's like,
I would like to offer that Yoda is the worst Jedi master of all time, and he led to the complete and utter downfall of the Jedi Order and the creation of Darth Vader, and damn near destroyed the entire galaxy because of his hubris.
Time, everyone.
Yeah, we don't have time for that entire discussion, but I'm, in hindsight, Yoda made a lot of bad choices,
and it's the dogmatic piece of Jedi, which is what's so frustrating to anybody watching Luke try to train Grogu and make him make a choice. It's like you didn't know.
That's when you know that you have emotional maturity, when you can come out and say the Jedi weren't the good guys.
No, they generally were trying to be, and then they flipped around the Clone War time, and then it all went downhill from there.
Well, and so in Luke having Grogu make the choice, right? So that's again a kind of a reflection of the way Luke was taught. Like, Luke knew that there was this attachment to Mando, clearly, that either Grogu was going to have to get over in his mind, in Luke's mind, or he was going to have to just accept the fact that, you know what, maybe this isn't for you.
Well, Luke just needs to cool his jets because, I mean, if Yoda's any indication, Mando's going to be long dead before Grogu gets old enough for it to really. He's got time.
And I think they
like the writing there. I like the fact that Luke's this way.
And they tried to show, I think they tried at least, to show, like, when Ahsoka shows up and then she's talking about how she's going to leave, like, there is some genuine concern by Luke, like, am I ever going to see you again? Like, you're the only other Jedi I know, and God, I could use another hand around here. Like, that's the kind of the feeling.
Mom!
That's the, yeah. That's the.
Imagine that she's told Luke the same thing she told Mando. I'm not going to train anybody because I'm not a Jedi, right? Like, that's her whole shtick right now.
But she's Luke's only connection to the Jedi of the past, like the only living connection to this storied past.
I'm not training you. I'm not training Grogu. I'm not a Jedi.
See, I kind of took her.
Whole shtick is I'm no longer a Jedi Knight.
I kind of took her refusal less as I'm not training you because I'm not Jedi, as more of a I'm not training you as a Jedi because I'm not a Jedi.
I put it because Filoni's involved in both. I put it in the context of the last time we saw her in Rebels, where when she faces off with Vader and they're having their tete-a-tete, and she's like, that I'm gonna get revenge, and Vader goes, revenge is not the Jedi way, and she goes, I'm not a Jedi. And it's that reference to, y'all screwed up and I left the order, screw you, and I'm not a Jedi anymore. I've bled my lightsabers, that's why they're white. Like,
well, I mean, I think and this is a rare praise I think I have to give for Ahsoka. I think she is a character who realized that the Jedi were not the good guys. In the old EU, which I know doesn't really matter here, there was a statement by a character late in the series during the Second Galactic Civil War between Jason Solo and Leslie. There was a Jedi, the ex-Jedi that lived on Mandalore, who said he was no longer a Jedi, and he left the Order specifically because he was disgusted about how the Jedi could be pro-life, pro-everything, and then intentionally use the clones as sacrificial bait.
And specifically, if you go back
as slave warriors, basically.
He was one of the characters in the Clone Commando novels, and he was one of the Jedi that fought with the Clone Commandos, right? That were trained specifically. Like, if you go back to the old days, the Kuival Dar, that were the Mandalorians that were brought in by Jango to train the Clone Commandos, like that were supposed to be their elite Delta Force.
Yeah, but it's just it gives me a basis for respecting what Ahsoka chose. Maybe I don't know if that's the reasons why, but that may have been at least partially the reasons why, where she realized that the Jedi Order was basically evil in its own way by being.
Yeah, because they threw her under the bus, and that is in the current canon. Like, they fully threw her under the bus. They were like, yep, you're a terrorist now. And she was like, wait, what? Like, screw you guys.
So, I mean, I kind of feel like if they're going to, especially with this, depending on where, I haven't paid enough attention on where they're setting the Ahsoka TV show, like what time period.
It's after this.
But I'm kind of wondering if we're not going to see her more take on a role of, like I was saying before, she's not training people as Jedi, but that doesn't necessarily mean she's not training or at least offering guidance to Force users in some capacity.
My presumption from Mandalorian and from what we saw of her in The Mandalorian and where they left her character, my presumption is she's looking for Ezra.
Oh, and that's, I feel like
and 100%. She thinks that now that she knows the Thrawn's reappeared, because the last time anybody saw Ezra was when he took him and Thrawn off into God knows where with the hyperspace whales.
I mean, they've already confirmed Sabine for the Ahsoka series, right?
No, they pretty much have.
But they haven't said yes, but no.
That officially. Was my understanding of the Ahsoka series was that it was basically going to be Ahsoka and Sabine looking for Ezra and Thrawn. And I'm sure they'll figure out a way to tie that into the larger storyline, the Star Wars CU they've got going on.
So
the Disney Plus CU.
And this is where I think they're going. And this is, again, why I'm willing to give them a little more rope is because my guess here is this is all set up for what's coming next for this whole series. And that is, like, they set it up in the Mandalorian episode. She's like, well, the only way to redeem yourself is to bathe in the thing of Mandalore. And Boba Fett has the mythosaur skull, and Jango is of Mandalorian descent. Although, like, again, what's a Mandalorian in your own eyes? Because you've got, like,
the Concordians and all that stuff is all technically still part of the Mandalorian,
right? And so, and they're all like it's essentially confirmed that the armor was one of the Death Watch people who was following Maul when Maul split the Mandalorians. That's why she's got the weird horns on her head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To look like
I didn't even pay that close attention to Clone Wars, and I picked that up pretty much immediately. Well, especially since they had, what's his name, Vizsla? I can't remember the character's name.
Vizsla, yeah.
And for those people that haven't watched Clone Wars, I mean, in Mando, they made it very clear from the Armorer's comments that, or from Bo-Katan's comments that, there are different sects of Mandalorians, and they follow different beliefs.
Well,
in regards to.
They will all fall behind the one who's carrying the Darksaber and riding the mythosaur. And I think that's where they're going with Boba. I think the Mandalorian's going to be like, look, dude, you led these people. You want to lead some people. You don't want to be a punk anymore. I don't want to lead these people, which is actually in the old EU. When he first became Mandalore, the Mandalorians were like, you're not really a Mandalorian. And it took him a long time before the Mandalorians were like, never mind, you're a Mandalorian.
Having just read that, it wasn't that they weren't just, you weren't a Mandalore, it's just they thought he wasn't doing what was necessary to be Mandalore. Not Mandalorian, Mandalore.
No, I said Mandalorian. Before he became Mandalore, they were like, really, dude? Because that's back when they were like, when he was leading them to fight the Vol.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd have to go back. I'd have to go back and well, he never learned either. He picked up bits and pieces
for never speaking Mandalorian.
But I'm fairly certain. I'd have to go back and watch it. It's season 1, maybe season 2. Whenever they basically showed Din Djarin being found in the dumpster by someone, I'm fairly certain it's pretty blatantly a Death Watch guy.
Oh yeah, for sure, it's a Death Watch member that finds him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I want to touch on something real quick, if you guys don't mind, to interrupt the EU discussion. I will say, so this episode ended, the season ended, and I was surprised at, while we did get a stinger in the credits, right, for what's going to happen.
Good one.
We got a good stinger. At least we got a stinger that I was happy to see.
Yes.
I also felt like they ended this season without any kind of tie-in or any kind of push or any kind of story-related thing that would cause you to believe there's going to be a second season.
I mean, other than saying basically like, we're the bosses now. Now what do we do?
I mean,
basically,
I felt like honestly the little exchange they had at the end before they do the pullout of the city. The little exchange they had at the end, there was a small part of me that expected like the classic 90s sitcom freeze frame. As they were like, oh, Croissant think it's a melon, but we don't. And I was expecting like a little
freeze frame high five.
I was expecting someone to be like, I know a great falafel place right over there, and then cut to the.
That was the one thing. Like I feel like
you're right.
The other seasons
have a second season.
Yeah, no, in the other shows, like there's clearly some kind, toward the end of the season, there is a tie that will give you a push to show you that they're coming back. I don't feel like this show, they're calling it obviously Book of Boba Fett. They called it like the season finale. They didn't call it a series finale.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
So that leaves it open, but I feel like story-wise, like when you look at the pieces and parts they left on the table, like there's really not much left there.
I agree. I think something is going to happen in The Mandalorian to push him in some way or the other. And there has been, so finally I can talk. there's been rumors that Boba might go hunting down Mace Windu because Star Wars fanboys cannot help but bring back the man with the purple lightsaber.
He's dead.
He's dead.
Well, no, so was Mallo and the Emperor. So
I was gonna say,
the Emperor somehow Palpatine
starting
returned.
to get into superhero categories where a fucking stiff breeze brings people back from the dead.
Maul was distinctly cut in half and dropped down an exhaust chute, and
they even showed a poof at the end of it.
I'm going to say a 60 seconds. This is where my salt's really going to come out because I am a huge Star Wars fan, but I get so mad at Star Wars fans. The whinging I saw was Book of Boba Fett was garbage. It was trash. It was ruined. Fire Kathleen Kennedy. And I'm so tired of the fandom being like, if it's not perfect, it's garbage.
So,
right? As
nothing
Mallo said at the beginning, some Star Wars is better than no Star Wars. And quite frankly, yes, was there problems with this series? Absolutely. Was it complete trash? No.
I would like to offer the fact, though, that I actually really enjoyed this series.
I did
because I gave it like the C plus B minus for a lot of.
I gave it a solid B.
Yeah, because I like the backstory. I mean, I'm obviously a huge Star Wars nerd. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt and everything tonight for the show. I like the. There you go. I like the deep dives on the 5 years and how Boba changed and got out of the Sarlacc pit, and I like the slow pacing of the Mandalorian because it gives you time to meet all these people. We're going to talk about it in a second, but the Kenobi series is coming up very soon, right? There's going to be more. Then Andor is coming later this year, too. These are deep dives on parts of the expanded universe that we haven't had in main cinema. And I think that that's a really good thing. Hands down. Like, I liked the fact that we get an old man Boba Fett with Tamir Morrison. I love the way he played this character. I like Fennec Shad's character. A lot of the nods that she gave at the end was like, and then she'd kind of like look off. And I think in her head, at least the way I interpreted it, was, okay, when this goes south, I'm going to escape this way. Bye.
Yeah, it was Fennec like making her escape plan, right? Like
it's like when the old man goes down and I'm no longer tied to him, I'm out this way. Bye.
And I'm sorry, that scene where she messed up the Pike Syndicate leadership,
and then like
when I saw her like lift Mok Shaiz up by his head on the rope, and then heard the like in the subtitles it says bones cracking. I'm like, oh, we're just being fierce now.
Yeah.
To talk about that scene for a second, there was one particular audio cue that happened right after she hung him. Mm-hmm. And that the last guy is like walking around, looking around, and in the background there is a drip. There is like a drip, drip, and I was like, holy shit, like that, like just that little audio cue made me go, ooh, like this scene was just like perfect. Like this is the Fennec Shand I've been wanting to see for this entire show. Like I want to see Fennec Shand doing the shit that she's supposed to do, which is awesome.
I didn't hate the show. I don't think it was the best one they could have done. I think they definitely could have made a better version of this. I don't hate it. I don't even really hate that they take my main man Boba Fett and turn him into an old guy. I'm fine with that.
Old man Logan was still cool as crap, man. I'm just telling you.
He was old. He had been injured of the Sarlacc. He was a clone, so he probably has some ongoing clone issues. But he still was able to kick some ass when he needed to. And he basically showed. I loved how he killed Cad Bane because it was very much the old guy still has some tricks up his sleeve kind of situation, which is what Boba Fett was always really kind of known for in some of the older years.
The gaffy stick.
What I didn't like about that scene was I didn't like two things. One, I didn't like that Cad Bane went out that way. I assumed Boba would like cripple him and leave him alive. Because I thought, okay, they've been trying to show the fact that Boba has changed through this whole series, and literally when Boba has the opportunity, he's like, fuck it, he straight up kills Cad Bane.
Well, there was
as far as we know, Cad Bane is dead.
I thought that to me that was a good callback to the old school Boba Fett for some of the reasons that I've shown you before. But in the old EU, there was a book called Boba Fett, A Practical Man, and a huge part of that was he did not leave threats behind to become future threats later, unless there was a compelling reason, usually money, to do so. And at that point, he did not have a compelling reason to leave Cad Bane alive, so he did what Boba Fett does and murked him.
I enjoyed that fight. I enjoyed the Mando Boba gunfight the most. That was my favorite part, was watching those two fly around, and then when they come down and they're like back to back and they're just like do. I also liked, and this is why I think they're going the Mandalore route, when they're sitting there talking and Boba's like, dude, you can go. And Mando's like, no, I gave you my word. And he's like, do you actually believe this garbage? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, and Bo was like, great, I guess we'll both die for honor then. You know, like, I loved that exchange. And I think, again, these are the things that we're seeing that's changing how Boba sees things and how he views the people around him. As not motivated by money, as motivated by the Tuskens do it for survival and for honor and for family. The Mandalorian does it for honor and his word, meaning more than just credits, right? That's the stuff that I took from that. I was like, that's great. And then when watching them just ice a bunch of people was really fun.
I'd also love to give Fennec another shout out because in that first appearance by Cad in the finale, when he steps out into the alley and then Boba comes out and they're initially having their first like stare down, you know, Fennec is the one that's like, hey dude, you're angry right now and that's stupid. Like, pull back. This is not the time for this bullshit. Like, yeah, I was like, thank you, number two. That's the reason that's one of the reasons that Boba needs to keep you around, because you kept him from making a horrible decision.
I liked the surrender scene where he's like, here, give me your tablet.
Oh, that was great. Finally, a wonderful use of that actor as that Twi'lek. Like, that was...
Yes.
I was sad he didn't get shot.
Yeah. Although, shout out to, what's her name? Pele? Like, did she not, like, look like she was like, I'm going to take you back to my garage later?
No, what I love is
I'm done a Jawa. I'll do you.
No, it was just it was a combo of so many things. The speeder, the cart flips, and boom, her tooth gets knocked out, and you actually see her pick up her tooth and like throw it, like she's like, oh, what?
He goes, I was like, oh my god.
And then, she literally, they meet for a second, and then she's like, come over here, cute face, or whatever. Or like, they're flirting for that brief moment. Like, not now, later.
Yeah. By the way, that was nice.
Did y'all notice that when the droid was when it was flaming, I just noticed it. I didn't. It's actually Grogu who flips the thing. Grogu rips that droid's head off.
Yep.
And then I liked him putting the Rancor to sleep. I thought it was it's a nice force power. It's good. I also like the fact that much like the last time when he did the big lift up in Mando season 1, using that much force ability for him wears him out. He's like, crap, I gotta go sleep now. I just had to put a Rancor to sleep. I'm out. What's up, Rancor buddy?
I love that he started petting it like, this is my dog now.
And if you were gonna bring Danny Trejo back, that's the moment they should have brought Danny Trejo back.
Yeah.
Right? This whole series, and again, maybe this is why I have a soft spot for it. I love Robert Rodriguez. I love El Mariachi. I love Desperado. I love his early stuff. This felt so much like that to me. Like, even when he brought Danny Trejo in, I was like, oh, of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course.
I appreciated that they took it back to the Tatooine space cowboy roots, where it's a space western, basically.
I loved the showdown between Cad Bane and Cobb Vanth and the stupid guy who screwed up the showdown.
Well, I mean, that's a trope from
Deputy,
the Western.
shut up. Go in there.
Yeah. I think the thing that's interesting to me was, I don't know if we talked about this in the last episode or not, but like when Mandalore came back, they actually showed what happened to Mandalore, like the planet. Like they went through the whole like, a bunch of K2SO droids and stuff like that walking through the irradiated fields.
I thought that K2SO droid was nice. Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, that's dark even for Star Wars.
Well, that's the thing. Like the thing that I will give them about this series, and I think maybe we said, I gave it a B, like Joe gave it a C, but Joe still liked it, on certain levels. Like, there were a lot of really good and interesting choices made through the course of the series, and there were things that I really liked, beats I really liked, story pieces I really liked. I just wasn't a big fan of the execution of the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was the biggest part of it for me, is I feel like when you come off of a show, when you come off of the series of shows that Disney Plus has done so far, all the Marvel stuff that they've done, when you come off Mandalorian, like, there is an expectation kind of for how that storytelling is done. And I'm not to say that you shouldn't throw expectation in the wind and do something different, but I felt like, to Joe's point earlier, there was a lot about this that felt a little disjointed over the course of it. And yeah, it fell kind of more into line toward the end. But again, there is this clear delineation between episodes 4 and 5 where suddenly they're like, okay, we got to get some, we're going to
it felt like filler.
Yeah, we're gonna like start really like leaning into that final episode, and boom, the last 3 episodes were like, on point. Like, I was excited to watch those episodes, whereas going from 1 to 2, from to 2 to 3, like I wasn't as I wasn't as excited to sit down and watch it as I was the last 3 episodes.
I kind of felt like they could have condensed the 2 Mandalorian episodes into 1 and probably been fine. And like I said, I didn't hate the show. It's not my favorite one they've done. I do, to Mallo's previous point, that we've talked about it before, I do really, really appreciate that we're finally starting to see more of the Star Wars galaxy that does not revolve around the Skywalker clan. Even though Luke Skywalker was in it, he didn't really play that pivotal, like, he was almost...
He's a side character here.
Yeah, side character. He didn't really matter that much, which I do really like the way they did the actor on this one. He looked a little less robotic.
So,
$5.
Did you watch the thing about how they're doing the Skywalker?
No.
Oh yeah, I read all. I watched the documentaries, and then of course, the last week or the last couple of days has been like Twitter and social media ablaze with how it was garbage how they did all this, and it's like, really.
I like it.
Mark is actually there.
Yeah.
So when they do Luke, they have 2. So Mark does the scenes as Mark. And they have a stand-in to help with certain stuff that has a close enough visage to do it. Watch that documentary, but Mark is and he's getting credited.
Yeah.
Mark is there and was there for the Mandalorian season 2 thing. Speaking of which, the thing that I was afraid of, and I think would have cheapened this a little bit, and a lot of people were wondering if Book of Boba Fett was going to pull a Mandalorian season 2. Mandalorian season 2, obviously we have the cool Luke sequence at the end of the season, which is neat, and it's a fun one-off. But like Mallo saying about getting away from, or Joe was saying about getting away from the Skywalker clan, there was a rumor floating around for a minute that Han and Chewie were going to show up.
Oh yeah, I'm glad
in
that
the final episode, and I was like, depending on how you do it. But I'm glad actually that they didn't.
Yeah. They're not needed. I'm
glad we didn't be like, let's drag this in here for fan service. Because they could have. They totally could have been like, hey, Harrison, we're going to de-age you like De Niro. Right? And, we
got a Wookiee. It's all good.
And we got a Wookiee. It's fine. And so we used the cat that we used for episode 9. And I'm glad they didn't bring Harrison in. I'm glad they didn't bring Han. Han did not need to be part of this story. And I could see where they might have thought about it.
I will say one of my favorite parts about this, and it's the irony is not lost on me that it has nothing to do with Book of Boba Fett. But my favorite part about this series so far was when they showed Din Djarin taking the space liner from the Halo world to Tatooine. Because to me, that just gave you like a really good taste of how the rest of the galaxy lives.
Well, and how Mando literally has Mando's in coach. He's getting his shit checked through security. Like, for him being a focal point, a focal character point, he is literally just another dude to most of the galaxy.
So nice little Easter egg too for my Disney people. If you go, that droid was created for the Star Tours ride at Disneyland. That is the droid that is flying your little shuttle through the Star Tours ride before R2-D2 takes over.
There's also
brought that in.
A version of that droid is also used as the dealer in the was used as the dealer in the casino. It's that same type of a similar model.
But it's the Disney Star Tours droid.
Yeah.
I also glad for the people who play Jedi Fallen Order. They brought in the BD droid.
Oh God!
Fallen Order. Loved BD.
When BD did the little feet dance, I was squealing because when Fallen Order came out, like I loved Fallen Order. I thought it was an awesome game. I loved the storytelling, but that little droid, I got so attached to that little droid through the course of that game that to see that little droid brought to life in an actual series. I was a little overwhelmed when I saw that droid come out. I was like, oh my God, it's BD. And even if it's not BD1, it's a BD unit, right? It's just that doing the little happy feet dance. I was like, I'm so happy. Yeah. But I'm also the type of person that, like, when Cad Bane came in, or when Chrysanthemum came in, like, I was like, thank you for bringing in these characters that are ancillary. They are part of canon, but maybe part of Legends. And I like the fact that they do that because it's not only them acknowledging that these things, like, we can use these characters that are already written because they fit perfectly into these roles that we need them to.
And they've done it all the way back to Rogue One. So Forrest Whitaker's character in Rogue One was a character from Clone Wars,
lies
and Rebels,
deception.
I'm super happy that they're not afraid, because the MCU was afraid to do it for a long time, and the MCU didn't do it. But with Filoni and Favreau, they've been like, no, we're going to suck in all the stuff from the cartoons and all this stuff that we've determined is canon. We will bring those to life in live action. Like, I'm so happy they're willing to do that. That just gives me joy.
All right. Last thing we're going to do before we have to jump off tonight. Kenobi series comes on May 25th to Disney Plus.
Did they confirm that?
Yep. It's out there. It's out there on the StarWars.com.
And not just one season. Not just one season of Andor, but they've already signed for a second.
Yeah. At least two.
Which I'm really hoping that they don't do the character arc bullshit with Andor, because they kind of did it in Rogue One. But whenever you meet Andor for the first time in Rogue One, he is a hard ass who is traumatized by the things that he's had to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Andor is Andor. I've called Andor a Han analog in the past, but that's because the first time you see Andor, the first interaction you get with Andor's like, well, it's me or you, and you got to go. Boom, later.
So the nice thing about the Obi-Wan premiere, it is exactly 45 years after the release of Star Wars Episode 4.
I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think Ewan McGregor can do a fantastic job as an actor. I think, free of very stiff dialogue they had in the prequels, I think he can do really good things with that role.
If there was any actor of the time that was going to, replace Alec Guinness and take over that role, I mean, Ewan McGregor did a phenomenal job. Like,
Chat's saying, I hope they let him be sassy again. I'm sure they were with all the hello there memes that are out there now, right?
I think
I feel like
it will be there.
I think people need to be ready for angry, bitter Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how. I'm interested to see how they play the passing of time versus the events that have happened in the universe, right? So when they bring Kenobi in, when we start his series, like, for example, like we've seen in Rebels, like there was a period of time where, for those of you spoilers, Maul and Kenobi get a second duel on Tatooine, and it goes poorly for Maul.
Yep.
Have they said how long, what time frame it's supposed to be in it?
I haven't seen anything yet.
I mean, it's obviously got to be before the later three movies.
My guess is, and based on some of the leaks I've seen, I'm thinking we're 6 or 7 years after Revenge of the Sith. So I think you will see Luke as a young boy, briefly. But I think that's about it.
My question though is how they because Hayden Christensen's in it.
He is
as Darth Vader.
Yep.
I am. When I saw that, I was immediately concerned. Not because Hayden Christensen, whatever. I'm over that. But how are they going to hand wave the canon then? Because if they have an interaction in this series, which it sounds like they're probably going to, then Darth Vader has to have known the Obi-Wan was still around.
So the nice thing about the old dialogue is, when I last left you, I was but the learner, now I'm the master. You could hand wave that by saying, right now he's a Sith apprentice. He is not, if you're only a few years after Revenge of the Sith, he is not in his full, like, dark side power mode that you see in Rogue One. And so you can throw in another Obi-Wan Vader fight, right? Maybe one where, and actually it would make more sense this way if you think about it, where he's like, I haven't sensed that person. And then when he talks to Tarkin, he says, you know, Tarkin's like, your old master here, you know, it would make more sense if Obi-Wan escapes Vader and Vader thinks he's dead, as opposed to the way Obi-Wan left Vader dying on a hill on Mustafar. So I can actually see it making more sense if they have one more fight.
So funny that you mentioned that, because I literally just watched Revenge of the Sith today. I kind of got on a little Star Wars kick. I was like, I'll watch the movies again. So I threw it on while I was working, and it got to the end, and you know, I got to that little scene where, you know, Obi and Anakin's sitting there basically melting, right? Oh my God, I'm melting. And all I could think to myself was, what a dick move to just walk away. What, like the most colossal asshole move. Like, this person that you considered your best friend, you know, your brother, and you're going to let them just sit there and slowly die in agony.
And that is why Obi-Wan could have just ended it. Like, all Obi-Wan had to do was go over there and go poke, and we would have been saved the entire thing.
Well, I think that ties back into the whole thing that the Jedi were not the good guys. And at that point, Obi-Wan was, by their own definition, emotionally compromised. Yep. He had just seen his entire order get destroyed, and I think I really hope they tackle that in the show, and I think they will. I think he's going to be struggling with dark side
there's going to be
issues.
some PTSD stuff.
So,
that he is going to be struggling.
Michael, you remember this? The old West End game Star Wars, the original West End game Star Wars, the class that they based on Obi-Wan's character in the movies was specifically called a Fallen Jedi.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what we're going to get. BitPlayer says they would like to see Qui-Gon.
I would like to see Qui-Gon.
I would not be shocked. In fact, I'll be a little surprised if we don't. Based on what happened in Rebels and in Clone Wars, I will actually be a little surprised. And actually, since you watched Revenge of the Sith today, the thing that Yoda tells Obi-Wan to do at the end of Revenge of the Sith is, I made contact with Qui-Gon. He's going to teach you how to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I will actually be surprised if we do not see Qui-Gon in Force Ghost form.
And that's my understanding of the situation with Hayden coming back. I am almost 100% sure it's going to be in flashback.
Could be.
We may even see him see him as Darth Vader in the armor. I don't think necessarily that we'll see Obi-Wan and Darth Vader have a fight. I think if anything,
Hayden will be in the armor.
Yeah,
and they have shown him practicing with the lightsabers, but not against Obi, right? Like, those two may not have been in the same kind of thing, and so it could be a Rogue One kind of thing where he just goes hunting down all the rest of the Jedi, and Obi-Wan's trying to help him escape.
Yeah, it may be exactly that, where you know, Obi-Wan comes into contact with Vader through trying to assist other Jedi, right?
Yeah,
or you know, that type of
they're
scenario.
hunting the Jedi down for 10-15 years after Order 66. By the way, to bring us back to Book of Boba Fett, so we got the Order 66 flashback for Grogu, where Luke helps him remember who rescued Grogu.
I already covered that on the internet. You can go look that article up. They'll talk all about it.
No, but who did? Who?
I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She was one of the Jedi that was, like, very briefly. She has the facial tattoos and.
You're subscribed to that theory. Okay.
But that's a theory. We don't have any confirmation.
We don't.
I don't think they'll ever totally cover that. I think with Obi-Wan, I believe in my heart of hearts that he's going to get lured off Tatooine for something, either saving the Jedi or feeling like he needs to confront Vader again because he realized that Anakin didn't die on Mustafar, and feels like it's his responsibility to stop it. I would love to see another fight between them. I think that would be great, but I don't think they necessarily have to have that fight for it to be a confrontation. Like, it could be a starship battle, like they're fighting and fighters, and Obi-Wan gets shot down.
Obi-Wan hates flying.
Yeah. So I mean, like, they could do it something like that. I don't know how they're going to do that show without a confrontation between him and Vader at some point.
I like to think I'm on with you, Joe, about it also not necessarily taking place on Tatooine, or like Obi-Wan not being necessarily on Tatooine for the series.
I don't think he's gonna be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I feel like my gut feeling is, like, story-wise, like, Obi-Wan dropped off Luke to the Lars family and was like, I gotta get the fuck out for a little while. Like, I can't, like, he'll be safe with you guys. Nobody knows he's here.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stick around. Like, if I stick around, I'm just drawing more attention. I need to be gone.
I kind of wonder if he goes off Tatooine specifically to lay a trail away from Tatooine.
That that would make perfect sense to me.
Because I feel like if Anakin had showed up on Tatooine, he probably would have detected that Luke was there. Because he knew he had kids, or was supposed to have kids.
That's the thing that, again, they haven't established in the new one, but in the old canon, when Palpatine tells Anakin that Padme died, he's not aware that the kids didn't die with her.
But if he shows up on Tatooine and feels a Force presence related to him, like, he's probably going to put 2 and 2 together.
The question is, if he's not looking for it, would he sense it?
Yeah, because Lord knows they launched again with, he was with his daughter, on the transport at the beginning of New Hope, and apparently had no idea that she was related to him.
But he also detected Luke when he was cruising by in the shuttle, like, a few, two movies later.
He knew that he had a son at that point.
Yep. And also, when he's chasing Luke down in the first pit, he's like, the Force is strong with this one. But he's not like, oh, that must be my kid.
I mean, I see what you're saying, because there's also the thing where Ahsoka didn't recognize Anakin at first.
Yeah, my presumption is that he doesn't know that Luke and Leia exist at all, and Anakin would have no reason to go to Tatooine in my head.
Oh, and in my mind, certainly the Emperor knows, but the Emperor's not telling Vader.
Well,
I think the Emperor knows.
I think the Emperor knows.
Yeah.
Because again, kind of go back to Empire, where they're like, they find out that it's Skywalker, and he's like, the son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi. I don't think he knows either. I think they got away with that one clean.
Well, I mean, I don't really super buy the whole he has no reason to go to Tatooine situation, because, like, dude got melted on Mustafar and then built a fortress there.
But he hates sand.
He does hate sand. Yeah, it's coarse. By the way, the cast for the upcoming Obi-Wan series is beyond Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen is fantastic. With Kumail Nanjiani also being on there, Rupert Friend, Maya Erskine, Soon Kang. Ooh. It's all about family. Let's go. Moses Ingram's going to be there. Yeah. What? Yeah. Oh, I didn't. He's going to go really fast and furious. It's going to be fantastic.
He's going to be one of the Inquisitors.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, God, hopefully, I hope they call him Han Solo again. Han Solo. I would love that. If he's playing the same character.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that series. I think it's going to be really, really good. We also have Moon Knight starting up very soon. That's going to be bonkers. We'll have a recap episode about that coming up. Until then, thank you all for hanging out with us in chat tonight.
Oh, wait, we're done?
Yeah. I know. It goes quickly, doesn't it?
Wait, we haven't even bitched about the Naboo Starfighter.
I
have nothing to bitch about.
I will hear nothing of that.
I thought they had a lot of fun with that.
I love it. Yep.
All the dads in chat know exactly what that scene was happening, and when he punches it at the end, we're like, "Yep."
the Grogu Pope-mobile bubble in the back. When I first saw it, the first thing that popped in my head, you remember in the 90s when Homer Simpson designed the Homer, the car?
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, so they have the Homer.
Yep.
Oh my god!
It comes full circle. It's great. It's fantastic.
I did love that at the end when he's like, no. All right, one more time.
Yeah.
Like, how many jumps into hyperspace has he made going absolutely nowhere?
Because it's fun, and then you get the little squeal at the end. Yeah.
That was. Those two need to be together.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Man, you guys were fantastic in chat. Everybody was fantastic on the panel. One last plug, if you haven't already, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Show us a little love over there. If you want to learn more about it, go to playidentico.com or find us at Identico on just about every social in the world.
You know, Mallo, can I make a real quick plug?
Yeah.
Considering the content of what we're talking about today.
Yes, you may.
If you enjoy Star Wars and enjoy Star Wars storytelling,
yes, you do.
Please give this podcast a listen. It's called Redemption. It's the redemptionpodcast.com. It's the Star Wars podcast that I've been a part of for the last 6 years. We tell stories based in the around the time of the Clone Wars. We just got past the Clone Wars. It is a wonderful, like, found family comedy and drama. A lot of fun. There's a lot to listen to. Pick it up wherever you want. And if you enjoy Star Wars
podcast out there,
we believe we are the oldest running Star Wars actual play out there.
And you all just were featured as part of Star Wars Podcast Day as well. And a slight plug, because I believe Kaylee from the Chaos Incorporated is also on that podcast. So
she is. Kaylee is our editor, and Kaylee is wonderful.
So go check that out.
redemptionpodcast.com, or you can find us at Redemption Pod on the Twitters.
Yep. And it's awesome because we were giving Michael some crap before the show started because his character is the same species as Cad Bane. And so we expected him to come on with a hat and everything. It was fantastic.
The first live action duo with lines. I was so thrilled.
Yeah. Joe, can people find you anywhere else on the internet?
Discord and Steam. That's about it.
Find him on Discord. Come hang out with us from there. Alex,
some crap in the Identico one.
Yes, you absolutely may. Alex, where can people find you and at the store?
I am Alex the Humanoid everywhere. I will be back Monday for our newest episode of Chaos Inc.
This is going to be a fun one too.
Ooh. Oh yeah, and I will be running Identico tomorrow at Gamers Heaven in Linwood. So if you want to know what's going on with Chaos Inc. and all that stuff, follow us there. I'm Alex the Humanoid.
Yep. Yay. And I am Mallo. You can find me at the Mallo Man literally everywhere on the planet. Come check us out from there. Show us some love all around. Otherwise, we will see you all next week. So be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Continue to wear a mask and be safe out there. Drink your water. Take your vitamins. And we will see you next week.
This is the way.
This is the way.